killer who may be in this room. We believe you are hiding in plain sight.
Keep your baby close to you. There's someone out there.
What's up, Mob Crew? I'm Chris, and today's missing person case is Don. Also, today's person of interest is Olivia. Today's missing person case is Currie.
What's going on there, man? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please, Wayne.
What's up, everybody? Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you can hear me okay, please put a 1 in the chat. Just get this set up real quick here. So thank you guys. Oh, that's a little too loud. I gotta turn that down. So for those that are new to the channel, I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover murder mystery to the missing. And today we're going to go over the latest details in the Dylan Rounds case, which, as many of you have been talking about, is very close to me. I am from Utah. Dylan Rounds went missing in Lucin, Utah, which is close to the border of Nevada, close to West Windover. And so he went missing last year in May. And we've been out there many, many times, myself personally. Kind of lost count, but 6 or 7 times I've been out there. The last time I went out there, I was actually out there with Texas EquiSearch, which is an amazing group. So far, no luck on finding Dylan Rounds yet, but they did finally charge the guy that was most likely responsible for his disappearance, which is James Brenner. We will kind of recap the timeline for those that are kind of new to the case. And yeah, so excited that they finally charged him. The parents have been working so hard, Candace and Justin, and it's about time they finally get some kind of the ball rolling. And they had to do a lot of stuff on their own. They just weren't getting the help they needed at the beginning, and sadly there was a lot of things that could have probably been done sooner and could have had a better result, but unfortunately that did not happen. But now they are getting the help they need, and finally, with some new developments, they finally charged him, and we'll look at those documents and everything. But before we get started, we always like to get back by featuring the missing. And so when I talk about Dylan Rounds, I always like to feature Aiden Clune. These two kids, two teenagers, actually kind of went missing almost back to back. And near the same area, but they're not connected. So this is Aiden Clune. He went missing a month prior to Dylan Rounds on April 27th. He went missing in Wells, Nevada, which is about 50 miles from where, let's see, I think it's like 50 miles from, I want to say Elko. I think it's Elko, but anyway, he went missing, and there is a $5,000 reward. I don't know if this is kind of an old poster, so there might be a bigger reward since then. This is a case that we would like to pick up at some point, and I have been in contact with the mother once in a while, and hopefully maybe, like I said, if things line up, we would like to try to go out and help that family as well. But baby steps as we're just getting started with the whole going out and helping some of these cold cases. But he went missing. He was age 19. He kind of looks just like Dylan. Brown hair, same age. But missing last year in Wells, Nevada. Okay, so shout out to all the mods. Thank you for everything you guys do. I put a poll up there, and it looks like I asked you guys if you think if James is the only suspect. Looks like it's kind of 50% says yes, and then 20% say no. Some of you guys think he could have had help. It's possible. I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think so, but it is possible. Okay, so we'll kind of recap the timeline here. Let me pull that up there. Let me get my chat up to speed. Okay, perfect. All right, and we'll kind of play a video. So, of course, since I've been out there, for those that are new to this case, I've got tons of drone footage because we've been out there many, many times, and we'll kind of show you what it looks like out there. So anyway, the timeline goes, so this is towards the end of May last year. This was upon Memorial Weekend. So Dylan was doing some farming in Lucin, Utah, and we'll just kind of look at Google Earth here just to kind of show you the vastness of where he went missing, sadly. So if we kind of back it out here, this is the Great Salt Lake. You've got Salt Lake City here. This is West Wendover. And then if you just go northwest Wendover, this is kind of where everything went down. So this camper truck, this is where he kind of had his camper and he would stay. And this is where he also had his farm as well. But then he also had a secondary property, which they had a shed here, or a garage. It's kind of been dubbed the grain shed, even though Candace, it's basically a garage, but we'll show you guys that. But anyway, there's a garage that holds the grain truck, and so on that weekend, he was getting ready to plant. He hadn't planted that year. He was getting everything set up. But he had all his grain inside the grain truck, and unfortunately there was a storm coming, and so he didn't want his grain to get wet, and so he wanted to go to the grain shed here and put the truck away in the garage, so when the rain came it wouldn't affect the grain in the truck. And so this happened on the Saturday. Now, he was last physically seen on the 26th, but we know that he was alive on the 28th, early that morning. And so that morning on Saturday the 28th, now he gets up early. For those that don't really know Dylan, even though he is 19 years old, he's kind of a kid that was way ahead of his times. He was a kid that just wanted to work. And so, he had a dream that he wanted to, become a farmer, and he wanted to prove people wrong that he could grow stuff in the middle of a desert. And he was going to succeed, and unfortunately, he just didn't get that chance because of a terrible person that was there. And we'll talk about James Brenner here in just a second. But so that Saturday, go back here. We'll kind of switch back and forth between this calendar here. But so he was that morning. Let's see, back it out. So he was going to travel here and then go to the grain shed and park the grain truck. And since it was Memorial Weekend, he was actually going to just park the truck, do a few things, and then actually, I believe his mother said that he was actually going to go spend some time with his family since it's Memorial Weekend and it was going to be raining over that weekend, so he couldn't really work, so he was going to go spend time with family, but unfortunately that didn't happen. So when he got to the gate, or just before that, he called two people. The first person he called was actually James Brenner, who we'll talk about here in just a second. James Brenner didn't answer, and then he called his grandmother, Karen, at 6:51 a.m. Now, some may think that's early, but that's just Dylan Rounds. He's a early riser. Like I said, he's a hard worker. He called his grandmother, and that would be the last person he ever talked to besides James. But he told his grandmother that he was going to go park the grain truck. It was just a quick conversation. That was pretty much it. She said, I'm going to park the grain truck and then leave. And that was it. And that wasn't out of the ordinary for a short phone call. So he talked to his grandmother for just a quick second. And then unfortunately he was never heard from again. And then the next day, I don't know if it was late Saturday, but Sunday, since no one had heard from Dylan for a whole day, they kind of reached out to Jim and Dawn. So Jim is James Brenner. Jim is his name for short. So Jim and Dawn also kind of worked with Dylan. And so let's look at James here. Let's see. So this is James Brenner here. So he was actually technically squatting on the property. He had a trailer there near the grain shed or the garage. And he was kind of looking over the property, but technically he was squatting. He did have some property on the Nevada side, but I'm not sure it burnt down. I'm not sure exactly what happened. I'll have to look up the exact details, but he'd been staying on this property for a while. And so he was on that property, and then Dawn, who lives kind of northwest of there, so the family reached out to them to see if they had heard from Dylan. And I don't know exactly what was said, but they said they hadn't seen Dylan. Let me get where do I have my calendar at here. So they had not heard from him, and said that they would go looking for him. And then Monday rolls around. Of course, the family is worried, and they live in Idaho. So they came down from Idaho on that Monday, and when they got there, there was no sign of Dylan. But what they found in the beginning was really scary, because when they got there, they found, let me see, where's my picture at? Let's see. There we go. And so when they got to the grain shed property here, they had found, they were looking for Dylan, and he was nowhere to be found. And they went walking over by, as you can see, there's a dirt mound, which is about 100 feet away from the grain shed here. And by this dirt mound was Dylan's boots. Now, Dylan Rounds, he was very particular about his boots. He only wore one pair of boots. He did have a backup other pair, but he mainly wore just one pair of boots, and he'd wear them until they were completely worn out, and then his mom would go and get him the same exact pair. So he didn't have like a bunch of different boots laying around. So these were his boots that he was wearing before he went missing, and they were found just by this dirt mound right here. And so they kind of got worried. They thought, well, maybe something happened to him, and he was walking through the desert and he got injured or something. Of course, they're not thinking the worst. They're just thinking maybe, maybe possibly got injured or something. So they went out looking for him, but they couldn't find him, unfortunately. But they would eventually take the boots, and of course this took a long while, because when they finally did get the law enforcement involved, this is where things got was a huge problem, because unfortunately they didn't do anything with the boots right away, even though they had Brenner's DNA, which we found out later on, way later. not only Brenner's DNA, but a little bit of, I believe, some blood that was Dylan. So it had Dylan's DNA and Brenner's DNA. Originally, Brenner didn't say anything about these boots, but then when, obviously, when they knew that they had his DNA on them, he kind of was like, "Oh yeah, now I remember. I tossed those boots for whatever reason." So he admitted to handling the boots, but said he would just tossed them by the dirt mound, which doesn't really make sense anyway. But so yeah, so they found the boots by the dirt mound with his DNA and Dylan's DNA on there. So let me just make sure chat's going okay. Mods, just let me know how chat speed is. And so moving on. So of course when they got there, let me get my calendar back up here. So when they got there and they found the boots, and they couldn't find Dylan, of course, they started bringing out search and rescue, and they were been looking for him pretty much those that first weekend. There was no sign of Dylan, unfortunately. Then a bunch of crazy stuff happened, which I'm not going to get too much into, that really just screwed everything up. The Wadsworths got involved because of a certain PI that got hired early on and quickly fired because of his conduct and spreading misinformation. Really, I mean, that was kind of just a huge problem in the beginning, was a bunch of just misinformation, and it just kind of blinded people about, who was the real suspect. And anyways, so the Wadsworth, who own the bars in Montello, I was going to say Monticello, Montello, which is kind of basically the closest town to Lucin. So I'll show you where Montello is, because Dylan would stay in Montello occasionally. Let me back it up here. So even though Dylan did have a camper here, we have this little town. This is pretty much the closest town next to West Windover, where you could, get your gas. It's not a big town, as you can see. And I think this would probably be a good time to play just a little bit so you guys can see what the terrain is like. And then we'll come back with the latest updates, and we'll go over the new updates here in just a second. But I thought I'd kind of play a video of just kind of the terrain and everything in it. So let me get this video up for you guys here. Alright, I'm going to turn this down here. So this is, like I said, I've been out there 6 or 7 times now. We went out there the 2nd week, 3rd week, 4th week, 5th week, 6th week, and then I went out a couple more times like a month or 2 later. So here's just kind of a scenery. This is the town of Montello I was talking about. It's, like I said, small town, just one little school. It used to be a bigger town, but I forget the population now. It's not very big. Oh, okay. My apologies. Let me turn that down. Okay. Sorry, guys. Turned it down. I don't need the music. So this is the wash that. So one of the things that's in this area is a bunch of wash, which is areas like these, and this is what makes this case so hard, is because Dylan Round's truck would obviously been driven by somebody else, and we'll get to that in a bit. But there was tracks in this particular wash. A wash is like kind of like a canyon, but smaller. It's basically when water would run through it and digs out basically a wash. And the thing about these washes is there's quite a bit of them around this area. And these particular washes, you could easily, let's say, take a body and lay it up against the wall, and with a stick or shovel or whatever, you could easily just hit the wall of the wash and just cause a bunch of dirt to come down. So as you can see, this is loose dirt that's already fallen from just weather. So, and these washes go on for miles and miles, and would be very easy to just drive somebody into these wash and dump somebody out. So there was a possible lead that they thought he could have been in the wash. We don't know. But they have checked some of these washes. They've done a lot. I mean, we and of course Candace in Search and Rescue have done a lot of searching. And so these tracks, they were kind of wondering if these could have been the tracks of Dylan Rounds' truck, who Brenner would have used possibly to take Dylan somewhere in this wash and then dump him off somewhere. And it would be not impossible, but it would be, very hard to find him without the proper tools. But all the drone footage I have, when we were going out there, of course we filmed with the drone, and during that time we did have a connection with Search and Rescue, where they had I'm just gonna turn this music down, where we had access to a lovely person who would actually analyze the drone footage. So we'd go out there, when we were done we'd come back, and then I'd upload it to her, and she has programs that when they look at the footage, it's able to detect any anomalies and stuff like that. And so, and these are the sun tunnels. These are just south of where Dylan Rounds is at. But this is what's interesting, and this is what's really creepy, is this spot here. I'm going to show you in just a second. Now, this is another wash. This is just a broken up water heater. When we first came across, obviously we didn't know what it was, but it's just a water heater that it's been laying there. It's has no significance, but at the time it caught our eye because it was just something out of place, in the wash. So I'm going to skip this forward here a little bit. That was something I came across the third week, which is kind of scary, coming across the tarp. Now this is what's interesting, is this right here, this water hole. This has a huge significance. So back out here. So I'm going to do this so I'm not blocking it. There we go. Oh, don't do that. This a little smaller. Okay. So as we can see, this is where he was last seen. This is called the water hole. That's what I call it, the water hole. There's a little kind of pond here. It's about the size of a large swimming pool. It's not very deep, maybe a foot and a half. But what's interesting is Dylan Round's phone would be found in this water hole. And now with the new information that came out about his phone, is absolutely wild. Now what's crazy is this phone would not be recovered until weeks later. And so when we were there on the second and third weekend that he was missing, this phone, Dylan's phone, this footage that you're looking at right now, his phone was actually still in the water. And actually, it was over in this direction over here. So it's kind of crazy. I've been trying to look back and see if I can see it. It's got this weird moss, stringy moss. It's like, looks like a swamp, obviously. It's kind of quite pretty. It's got like a neon green hue to it. But I've got a video of the water hole, but yeah, the phone was actually just found in that pond. So going back to the timeline and James Brenner here. So moving on the timeline, as they were out looking for him, he did have a gun. And that gun actually, when they arrived on the 30th, that wasn't there. But somehow on the 1st of June, that gun returned. And really, the only people that are out there is Jim, and I mean, there's only a couple of people that live out there, and one of them they weren't even living out there during the time, like during the summertime. They go somewhere else, and then the other people, a family that lives up on kind of the mountain, they were gone during that weekend because it was Memorial Weekend. But so yeah, his gun was returned back to his trailer, which is interesting. So if we zoom out here, so this is what's weird is, so his gun was returned back to his camper all the way back here. And they believe it was probably Jim, and it was when probably they were distracted looking for Dylan. And then the next day, on Thursday, his key fob to his truck was found on the next day in the trailer. Now keep in mind, they didn't suspect James in the beginning. And this was a huge mistake, unfortunately, and they should have arrested him as soon as they did a background check on him. This is one of the biggest gripes for the family, and I don't blame them. So just kind of a background on Brenner, is he had a warrant out the year prior for aggravated assault. He's got a pretty bad background, and he nearly have to be careful the way with YouTube these days. I have to reword my vernacular, but yeah, he almost killed somebody during this assault. And anyway, he had a warrant for his arrest, and so it's a shame that was it Box Elder didn't arrest him when they should have, because he actually had a warrant out for this aggravated assault, and they didn't arrest him when they should have, which is absolutely a big just a big mistake. And let's see, so moving on here. So these are all the things that were missing in the beginning. And then the gun would be returned to his trailer. Obviously, his truck was, when they got there on the 30th, his truck was parked back near his camper. Now, what's interesting about the truck, and to me, it was staged, but the truck looked like it had been pressure washed, because there's a pond and a pressure washer there, because he's got farming equipment, so they have a pressure washer there at the farm, because it can clean off equipment. But it was clearly had been driven over that Memorial Weekend and had a bunch of mud on it, and whoever drove it, most likely Brenner, had cleaned off the truck. Now what's interesting, it was put into 4 low, but the 4 low doesn't work because whoever put in I believe it was the transmission, they messed up and didn't put it in right, so the 4 low didn't work properly. And also, whoever was in it last pulled the seat all the way forward, but they feel like that was staging to make it look like a short person. Even though James is not that tall, I forget his height. I'm sure somebody in the chat knows. I want to say it's what was his height? Let me know if you guys know in the chat. It's not. He's not short, but he's not tall. Hey, Henry Dog. Awesome program. Thanks, Chris. Thank you so much for the support, Henry Dog. That means a lot. Thank you so much. Let's see. We got 600. Okay. Wonder if he used Dylan's gun on Dylan. He could have. We don't know, but yes, he could have. Okay, so back to the trailer. So yeah, so the truck was there. Now the truck was, the truck was locked. So they ended up actually breaking the back window to get into it to check it, and then this was obviously before the key fob was returned. And then on the second, the key fob was let's see, I believe it's the 30 returned on the Tuesday, the 30. Let me look at this, because there was Thursday was when the key fob was returned. It was originally noted on Tuesday, but I think it was now Thursday, because that was something that did switch. Now what's interesting about this day is when the key fob was returned, they were distracted because they had gotten a call about possible Dylan being held hostage. So this was a huge thing. And this is kind of how Kurt Wadsworth got involved, the guy that lives in Montello, is that he had gotten some kind of information from third parties saying that that Dylan was being held hostage in Montello. None of that was true. This got the names of Chase and Chase Ventura involved, but they've checked him out and basically cleared him. Even though Dylan did give Chase a ride home to Montello, or half a ride home, we're not sure exactly if he gave him a ride all the way back to Montello or close to Montello. That happened a few days before he went missing. If you guys ever heard the story about somebody coming out of the desert with one boot or no boots, that was Chase, and that was another possible lead that kind of really sidetracked the case, because they did eventually clear Chase, because they actually have video evidence of that Saturday, knowing that Chase was not there. There's no way he could be involved, because at least on Saturday, because he was actually in Utah somewhere else, actually seen on camera. So going back to that Thursday, June 2nd, when the key fob, it would be returned while they're out dealing with that thing in Montello. Of course, that did not end up being true. And then so we move on. And then, of course, they searched and searched. Now, when they come up to that, let's see. So we talked about the truck. And they know the truck was clean because you can see the inside that's still got some of the mud. They didn't clean out all the wheel wells. The damage to the truck was already done prior to him going missing. As we can see, the 4 low, which didn't work. Okay, we'll get back to this because this is very important to the recent updates, and we'll get to the updates here in just a minute. See, what was one thing I wanted to talk? Okay, so according to James, what he says he was doing on the 28th is that I believe he says he didn't see. I can't remember. I have to go back and look at the interview, but I don't think he said he saw Dylan, and that he on that 28th that Dylan went missing. He went to a barbecue about 2 or 3 p.m. and he was there most of the night with Dawn, who Dawn lives like northwest of the property. I don't want to show his actual location because we don't know if he's involved. He is a friend of James and actually worked with Dylan prior to this, and may not have been involved. He would be the only other person that could possibly have, in my opinion, be involved in maybe the aftermath, but we don't know, and I don't want to speculate, and because I said, we just don't know. I'm 100% James is involved, and maybe just the sole person that was involved in shooting and disposing of Dylan, sadly. But this is what's really disturbing. So they had was it Box Elder out there, and during that first let's see, let me go back to the calendar here. Oh, what did I do with my calendar? Okay, bear with me 1 second here. Okay. So during this first week that he was missing, coming towards that weekend of June 2nd, 3rd, Brenner started cleaning out the grain shed, which is a huge mistake by, I believe, Box Elder, because he was most likely getting rid of evidence. And we'll kind of show you what the location for the grain shed looks like. You guys can have an idea if you haven't seen this. Dylan was 19 when he went missing. So here's kind of a fork in the road. So directly behind us would be the sun tunnels, which is kind of tourist attraction. It's pretty cool. It's set up for the summer and winter equinox. So when the sun is at its lowest and highest, you can see it through the tunnels. It's pretty cool. Straight ahead of us is where the grain shed, as most people call it, or the garage where he parked the grain truck at, and where Brenner was squatting. So as you can see, why it's so hard to find Dylan is this is just the immediate vicinity of where Dylan went missing, and just all this land. And you also have equipment like a backhoe and a truck and a shovel where you could just bury someone anywhere, and it'd be not impossible. It'd be really hard to find them. So we're going to scoot forward. So this is the beginning of the property here. All this is this was property that they were kind of renting out by a different owner. I'm going to skip it forward here. And so it's not there anymore, but next to this camper, there would have been a trailer parked right here. Which would have been James Brenner's trailer, which Candace, her family, Dylan Rounds' family, that was their trailer that they offered to James, if I understand. And so here's the garage, known as the grain shed to a lot of people. And then there's kind of a road, dirt road that hangs left and kind of comes out a side way. And this road kind of takes you to the pond, which is going to become important, as we talked about, because that's where they found Dylan's phone. So we kind of have an idea of the direction that, and if you see here, I'm going to pause it right here. I could take a still image, but for those that are on the phone, but anyway, there's some trees. That's where the pond is located, basically where my mouse is circling here. So about almost a mile away. I'm not sure if it's a full mile. I can look on Google Earth, but so that's where the pond is at, and that's where his phone was located. I'll show you where the boots were found. But yeah, during that first weekend that he went missing, during that first few days of June, James was actually cleaning out this shed, and which is a huge mistake. And like I said, law enforcement, I'm pretty sure it was Box Elder, they watched him do it. Sadly, they watched and let him do it, which was a huge no-no. Could have been a lot of evidence early on that they could have charged Brenner with. I'm gonna fast forward it here a little bit. All this was there before that, so all this digging was there before. I said all the footage that we had, I've had this for 6 months. We've studied it and sent it in. It's all been looked at. I still look at it because you never know what we could have flown over. So the dirt mound is going to be on our right here in just a minute. Unfortunately, we didn't want to spend a lot of time, or well, we couldn't because as you can see in the background, there's a bunch of twisters, little tornadoes here. The drone was getting beat up. There was so much wind, and we didn't want to lose our drone. And so, unfortunately, we couldn't spend a lot of time over this area because we had to bring the drone back. The phone was actually found at. How far away was it from the phone ping they had? I will go over that here in a bit. It's all optics. That's a good question. Yeah, we don't know exactly. It's like a little spot of blood, but yes, there was DNA of Dylan and DNA of Brenner. And those boots were found. He's gonna go to the right. Unfortunately, we didn't go all the way over the mound because we had to call the drone back. All that's just tarp and stuff. Oh. There it was. Okay, so there it is. You guys can see it there. So there's the dirt mound here. I guess at some point before he went missing and everything, I think this was kind of like a garbage burn pile that they used over here. That's why the dirt mound is like that. Of course, they searched the mound. He's not in there. But that's where they found the boots right there. So as you can see, it's not far from the grain shed. According to James, he's, for whatever reason, he picked up Dylan's boots and tossed them over there. I mean, you really got to kind of go out of your way to bring him all the way over there. It doesn't make sense. Of course, he had to admit to handling them because he had his DNA on him. So anyway, so that's just kind of a look at the grain shed area here, and we'll now we kind of got a lot of people in here. We'll start to get into the latest updates and kind of talk about some possibilities. So let me. All right, so we talked about the timeline. Oh, and then so they find his. I mean, we already talked about it, but when they found his phone, would have been. Let's see. I have the one. Oh, maybe I don't have it on this one. But anyway, it would be first, second. It would have been the 3rd week of June. So if we would have went one more, June 18th, to be as a matter of fact, is when they found the phone in the pond. And that phone is very significant because that phone, which we'll learn here in just a minute, they recovered it. And it sounds like it was recording some aftermath, which is amazing that they discovered this. Absolutely amazing. But what's crazy is what you're seeing here is this is the pond. And like I said, we were out there the 2nd and 3rd week, and this was found just after the 3rd week. So when we were here the first 2 times, the phone was actually still in this pond, and it was actually found right where I'm standing, like somewhere in this area right here, is the phone, which is absolutely wild. I'm kind of glad we didn't find it because, I mean, I'm sure we would have called law enforcement, but I'm just really glad we didn't mishandle it because in a situation like that, when phone is in the water for such a long time, what happened is when they recovered it, they took it out of the water and then placed it in a baggie or whatever, and then took it to go get, analyzed. But the problem is when you take a phone out of water, and if you're going to try to recover stuff from it, when you take it out, it starts to oxidize and it actually starts to ruin the components in the phone. So when you want to actually retrieve a phone from water and try to retrieve the data and not ruin it even further, you actually want to keep it in the water. Like, so you'd want to put it in a bag with water in it. That makes sense. Keep it in the same environment, because once it gets, when it's not in water, the air starts to oxidize everything and it can ruin the components. So I guess they got lucky because they were able to retrieve some video. They called a time-elapsed video, which is kind of odd wording. But so we'll go ahead and look at this latest details. So let me grab this real quick. Thank you so much, Tracy Dixie, for becoming a member and supporting this show. It means a lot. All the donations, everything. It helps support what we're going to be doing. Like I said, we're going to be going out. Hopefully, we would like to go out and help Dylan Rounds again. We're just kind of waiting. Candace and them are doing some things right now, but maybe if they don't have any success, hopefully they do. I really do. They deserve to have this over and find him and bring him home now. But if by chance that doesn't happen, we may offer. I mean, we've offered our assistance, but right now she just wants to hold back on. I think they have some things lined up, but if that doesn't pan out, then of course we're gonna go back out there. So with all the support you guys give us, and I know not everybody can donate, and that's fine. Just being here and watching the show and hitting the like button, that's a huge help. So thank you so much. I'm gonna grab this real quick and then we'll get started with the latest details. Thank you so much, Henry Dog, for the super chat. You are so awesome. Okay, so the latest details. So first we'll talk about Brenner, and then we'll talk about what they found on the phone. So I'm not going to go through everything, but he's got, let me take a sip here. Let's see, so is there a date? May 28th. So they got it on May 28th. We got a date here. March 4th. Okay. So he was charged, finally. They did, one thing I forgot to mention, they did, for those that are new to the case, they did eventually arrest Brenner, because he did have that outstanding warrant. They arrested him with being in possession of firearms. So he had some firearms that he was, his friend Don, who lives close by, he was holding on to him, the firearms for him. But since he, had this bad history, he wasn't supposed to be have these firearms. So he was actually arrested. What's crazy, he was actually arrested in the middle of June, then released, I think that day or a day later. And then they officially arrested him again at the end of June or the beginning of July. And then he's been in jail ever since. But, of course, they didn't charge him with anything in connection with Dylan Rounds up until now. So finally, they've got enough evidence, because unfortunately a lot of evidence was probably destroyed right in front of some of these, some of these people that were involved. And it's not everybody. Candace says, it wasn't. There's some definitely good people, and especially now the people that are working on it. But there was some just some mishaps in the beginning. But anyway, he was finally charged with 2 counts. He's got charge 1 with aggravated M here. And then charge 2, abuse and desecration of a human body, which is terrible. So basically disposal of a body. So he's got 2 charges pending right now. So the aggravated homicide and the abuse of a corpse here. So let's see, anything else on this one? Okay. So here is the probable cause statement. So this just talks about the desecration of a human body, which is just basically the definition of it. But this is where this is very interesting. This is the probable cause statement. I'm going to zoom this in here. Okay, so the 19-year-old victim was reported as a missing person on or about May 30th. Sheriff deputies, along with search and rescue crews, immediately got to work on efforts to locate the victim, but were unsuccessful. During the search, deputies discovered a pair of boots belonging to the victim nearby. One boot had a blood stain that DNA analysis confirmed belonged to the victim, which is Dylan, in addition to the DNA belonging to the defendant, which is James Brenner. The victim phone records were also obtained, which showed movements on that day of his disappearance on a remote property in Lucin where the defendant was squatting. Phone data showed that the last signal from the victim's phone was at the Lucin pond, and a search of the pond led to the discovery of the victim's phone. Digital forensic download of the phone was conducted and led to the discovery of a time-lapse video with the timestamp taken at the time of the victim's disappearance. That is huge. Huge. It's got me wondering so many different scenarios in my head. We'll talk about it in just a minute, but it's so huge. The video showed the defendant with bloodstains on his arm and shirt as he was cleaning a gun. The shirt which the defendant is wearing in the video was analyzed, and the victim's DNA was found on the shirt. Defendant was interviewed and made several claims that corroborated the forensic evidence, in addition to making numerous false statements. Despite a thorough investigation, I don't know about that, and extensive search, the victim's body was not recovered due to defendant removing and concealing it. So huge. Yeah, history right there. Thank you, cell phone technology. This is huge. Time-lapse video taken, which shows Brenner wearing a shirt. He's got blood on his arm, blood stains on his arms, plural. So I'm assuming carrying the body, and I hate to talk it like that, and on his shirt, and then he's cleaning a gun. It's kind of crazy going from the Murdoch case where Paul, the little detective, basically his video, the kennel video, basically, in my opinion, solved that case. And could this be the same thing? We have no idea, but about this. But this video that exists now, which kind of shows maybe the aftermath. So it makes you wonder a bunch of things. Like, did Dylan, before this, before he passed away, did he hit record on the phone and it was just left recording? And that's why they use time-lapse, because when you think of time-lapse, you think of a long video. In my opinion, time-lapse, let me know what you guys think when you think of time-lapse. When I hear time-lapse, I think of a long video, something that you have to usually fast forward because it's a time-lapse. It's a big video. So, curious to know what you guys take away from that. But that sounds amazing. That sounds like there could be a lot of evidence just on this video that they've got a hold of, which is amazing. What is that above your head? Oh, is that the... You're talking about the... That's the tip jar. I still need to fix it. It's supposed to be when people donate. It's supposed to run your name across the top, and then at the end, money drops into the tip jar. It's supposed to be a tip jar. I'm still working on it. It's got bugs. My apologies. Anyway, this picture's taken every few seconds. Could be. But that sounds more like a Nikon camera. It does. I mean, I guess a phone could do that. I guess phones have that technology. Because it sounds like video. Because they say video right here. Defendant is wearing in the video. So I don't know if it's pictures. I think it's video. I mean, you could be right. They use the word video, but yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yeah, long video, like when you're looking at the stars and you watch how the night, and they just kind of fast forward. That's what I think of a time lapse. Interesting. And I think even Androids have some of that as well. Okay, I missed something. I'm gonna go back up real quick. I think I saw Miss. Oh, I got that one. Thought I saw something come up, but. Sorry if I missed something. Okay, so string of photos. Okay, so some say string of photos. They use the word video right here. I can't highlight it. But either way, they've got a time-lapse video with the timestamp taken at the time the video's... and it shows him cleaning a gun and bloodstains on his arm and shirt. That's huge. Absolutely huge. So just now the question is did Dylan, like I said, did Dylan do this, or was Brenner did Brenner grab his phone and I don't know, maybe he was trying to go through it and then hit record, or did this time lapse thing or whatever, or did he take a picture, a selfie or something on accident? So weird. But it's amazing. I mean, I'm so happy that they've got this. So True Crime Web in here. True Crime Web, that's Steve from True Crime Web, who we're going to be working on some cold cases. And he might, if Candace will have us, we'll be going out there with Steve, along with our geophysicists, which is ground penetrating radar. We'd love to go out there. Cleaning the firearm while wearing a bloodstained shirt and arms is huge for timestamp to support time of final confrontation. Reason to clean gun is very disturbing. Right. Was the gun that Brenner was cleaning on the video from phone a gun that was turned into police? I honestly don't know. But it's a good question. So I see some 50-50 on the time lapse on what you guys think. It records footage at selected intervals. Okay. But either way, they have it. That's amazing. Okay, so let's see here. This is the summons here. I don't know if there's really anything. I like it how it's in black print here. Take this summons with you to the jail with the exclamation part. So here it's got the 2 charges. Okay, we just looked at that. Was there anything else? No. Okay. So we'll go ahead and play the video. Let's see. We'll play this one with Candace, and then the Nate Eaton one we'll watch next. Okay. Give me a second.
29 I'm Tamara Vaifanua. Thank you for joining us tonight. A day after formal murder charges were filed in her son's disappearance, Dylan Round's mother is speaking out about the last 9 months. News specialist Lad Egan spoke with her. He joins us live with more on her reaction. Lad?
Yeah, Tamara, Dylan Round's mother said this was a win for her son to see charges being filed. She said that her son was a hard worker with dreams of being a big farmer, only to vanish from a tiny desert town on the Utah-Nevada border last May.
Knowing who our son was, knowing what he would do in our position is what has kept me going forward.
Dylan Round's mother says the last 9 months have been a difficult, frustrating roller coaster.
We knew the first day we got out there when we seen Dylan's boots what happened. For us, this is a win. We have fought so hard for charges.
Candace Cooley's 19-year-old son has been missing since last May from the small town of Lucin in Box Elder County. On Friday, prosecutors announced aggravated murder charges against 59-year-old James Brenner, who is already in custody on unrelated charges.
This is good news. We don't have a conviction and we don't have Dylan's body, but we won the first battle.
Court documents say DNA, cell phone records, and a recovered video led to the charges. Cooley calls it solid evidence.
If a jury doesn't convict him, I will be absolutely shocked.
She pushes back at descriptions that Brenner was a family friend, saying that was not the case. When asked about a possible motive,
it's not premeditated, there's no motive, there's no nothing. It was a snap moment.
As for what's next, Cooley says she's confident that her family, along with volunteers, will find Dylan's body.
So when the weather breaks and we can get out there, and if some sort of deal hasn't been cut and we're still facing trial, we will spend the whole summer out there finding our son, and we will find him.
Cooley says she will keep on fighting for her son, and she wants to keep Dylan's name alive by helping other victims' families who may not be able to drop everything and advocate for their missing child. Dylan was 19 when he went missing, but Tamara, his mom tells me that one of his birthdays has come and gone since his disappearance, and he would now be 20. She says that they will keep us updated when they start searching for his body. Back to you.
Thank you for that report, Lad.
Oh, big kitty. Okay, I gotta let the kitties out, so I'm gonna play this next little. My kitties always come in to sleep with me when my show starts, but then for some reason they wake up and they want to get let out. So I'm gonna play this next little part. This is Nate Eaton, where he talks a little bit more about the charges and everything. I'm gonna play this and quickly let the cats out, and then we'll talk about some speculation and see what you guys think, and we'll look at the cell phone where it was kind of tracked and all that stuff. But yeah, she is a pit bull for sure. Copper Horse, member for 12 months. Thank you so much, Copper Horse, for all your amazing support. In honor of Dylan and the faith they have in finding him, his family decided to plant sunflowers. Yes, he loved sunflowers, Dylan. And in a way to honor Dylan is to plant black-eyed Susans. Dylan grew up planting sunflowers in his yard and in his grandparents. That's right. Okay, so we'll play a little bit of Nate Eaton. I love Nate Eaton. He's been behind this case, Lori Vallow case. He's kind of like the Brian Enton of the West. I really love Nate Eaton.
Good morning, everybody. It is Saturday, March the 5th, March 4th.
Okay, I'm going to let out the kitties while I play his thing here.
March 4th today. I realize it's a weekend, but wanted to come on this morning and give you a few more details in the Dylan Rounds case. It has been a 9-month ordeal for this poor family who has been wondering where Dylan is and what happened to him, and if there will ever be any resolution. And last night it was announced, it was filed that James Brenner, a man from North Dakota originally, is charged with 1 count of aggravated murder, a first-degree felony in Utah, and 1 count of abuse or desecration of a human body, a third-degree felony. And I wanted to show you, we have the court documents today, and I wanted to show you and tell you exactly what they say to give you a little bit more context as to why they are charging this man. He has been a person of interest, the key suspect, you could say. since pretty much the beginning. Dylan disappeared over Memorial Day weekend 2022, made a call to his grandmother in Idaho, told his grandmother that he had to get the grain that was in the truck inside the shed because it was about to rain. And so he was got off the phone, and then no one heard from him again. And the family went out there the following Monday, I believe, and to see what was going on. And Dylan's truck was there, his trailer was there, but he wasn't. They found his boots with a stain of blood or some sort of stain behind a dirt pile in the surrounding property. And nearby was a man named James Brenner, who was squatting, allegedly, reportedly squatting on property out there in his trailer. And he has been a suspect, and now he is officially the suspect in the murder of James Brenner. So I want to read you what's in these court documents. You can hear them exactly what they say. Count 1, aggravated murder, a first-degree felony that on or about May 28th, 2022, the defendant did 1, intentionally or knowingly cause the death of another, and the defendant, the actor, previously committed or was convicted of an offense committed in another jurisdiction, which is committed in the state, which would be a violation of a crime listed in subsection 1, or an offense committed in another jurisdiction with, if committed in this state, would be a violation of the crime listed in subsection 1. James Brenner has a violent history. He has faced charges elsewhere. He's been in jail on a firearms violation because he's a...
Yeah, so, yeah, that... Oops. Turn that up just a little bit. But, yeah, so like I said, Brenner, before all this, was arrested on firearms charges, but even had a warrant for his arrest. And it's just mind-boggling that when they got there, you have this missing teenager. They get there, and you would think they would run a proper background check. There's only one other person there, and I think maybe Don was there when they got there, but... either way, you would think they'd run the proper background when they get to the site and see that James Brenner has this outstanding warrant for his arrest. But instead, they just let him linger around and then cleans up everything days after, and they literally watch him do it. Just spring cleaning. Which, is quite late because it's, beginning of June. So just so frustrating.
Convicted felon, he's not allowed to have firearms, and when police went out there and served a search warrant last summer, they found firearms in his property. So he was arrested at that point. So there's the count 1, aggravated murder. Count 2, abuse or desecration of a human body, a third-degree felony that on or about May 28th, 2022, the defendant did intentionally and unlawfully disturb, move, remove, conceal, or destroy a dead human body or any part of it. Now, we don't know where Dylan is. We still don't have his body. The parents, I spoke with Candace Cooley last night, they're remaining optimistic that Dylan's body will be found in the spring once the snow melts, but they're saying that not only did the authorities are saying not only did James Brenner kill Dylan Rounds, he obviously desecrated the body, moved it, hid it, concealed it. And as far as we know, he has not said where that body is, because if he had, I can guarantee you searchers would be out there.
So for those that may not know, they did, when they brought Brenner in for questioning, and they also brought in Don, like I said, there's two people. Really, like I said, I think it's all Brenner, in my opinion. Maybe, like I would say 5% chance, maybe 10, that Don may have had something after the fact. But other than that, with Brenner and Don, they both got lie detector tests. Brenner failed his. Don passed. So that's why I think Don, most likely, because I'm sure they gave them pretty much the same kind of questions. And so if Don passed, but Brenner, like I said, the main thing, Brenner failed his polygraph test. He's the only one out there. It's not like it's not like a town or a city or a neighborhood where could be other people could be involved, or Like I said, Brenner's the last one. It's the only one out there, really. And so he's, in my opinion, he's clearly responsible. Now with the video evidence, I mean, that's kind of the nail in the coffin. Obviously, that's way more than enough to charge him. That's huge.
Looking for it, especially the Cooley. Candace Cooley and Justin Rounds, Dylan's dad, they'd be out there. So here's the probable cause statement. The 19-year-old victim was reported as a missing person on or about May 30th, 2022. Sheriff deputies, along with search and rescue crews, immediately got to work on efforts to locate the victim, but were unsuccessful. During the search, deputies discovered a pair of boots belonging to the victim nearby. One boot had a blood stain that DNA analysis confirmed belonged to the victim, in addition to DNA belonging to the defendant, James Brenner. The victim's phone records were also obtained, which showed movements on the day of his disappearance on a remote property in Lucin where the defendant was squatting. Phone data showed that the last signal from the victim's phone was at the Lucin pond, and a search of the pond led to the discovery of the victim's phone. This is something, I don't know if we've reported this, but we've known it. We may have known it off the record for some months, that Dylan's phone was found at the bottom of the pond. I don't think we've reported it because it was told to us off the record. They drained the pond and they found his phone. Here's the interesting thing. The phone, even though it had been in the water for however many months, a digital forensic download of the phone was conducted and led to the discovery of a time-lapse video with a timestamp taken at the time of the victim's disappearance. That leads me to think Dylan's phone was on, recording a video at the time he disappeared. That is a key line in this probable cause.
So keep in mind, when they say time elapse, they could be using that in an improper way. I was just thinking about that when they say time elapse. They may be using that vernacular, but it may not be in the way like an actual time lapse. It may just be a video and they just put time lapse. I don't know. To me, it sounds like whatever it is, it's definitely a video, in my opinion. And clearly it's got Brenner with blood on him with a gun. I see someone saying I'd like to learn about summer whales. Maybe in the future we'll touch on summer whales. I have looked into that case, but I've prepared a show for Dylan Rounds, so I'm going to stay on Dylan Rounds for tonight. But we might do a show on summer whales down the road.
That a digital forensic download of the phone was conducted and led to the discovery of a time-lapse video with a timestamp taken at the time of the victim's disappearance. And then the video showed defendant with blood stains on his arms and shirt as he's cleaning a gun. So Dylan's phone recorded, according to this, James Brenner cleaning a gun, and Brenner had blood stains on his arms and on his shirt. Was the phone purposely turned on? Did James Brenner turn it on? Did James Brenner not know it was turned on?
What I'm thinking is maybe before, maybe like let's say Dylan was shot and maybe hadn't succumbed to his wounds and maybe got out his phone, was trying to call, maybe could call, and maybe just somehow hit record. There's so many theories, but just makes me wonder when I'm thinking time elapse. I'm thinking of a long video, in my opinion. So I wonder if he hit record before he passed away, and so this whole time it's recording, and then Brenner, doing whatever, getting prepared to dispose of the body or whatever. And then, gets the phone out. Of course, he wants to separate it from where the body is going to be disposed of. And during that time, since it's recording this whole time, then it shows him with his blood, bloody shirt and clothing, whatever. And then also cleaning the gun. And he has no idea it's recording. And then eventually tosses the phone. I will play just a little bit more, and then I'll show you guys the timeline of where the phone kind of traveled.
Dylan somehow, before he died, turned the phone on and record a long video? I mean, that is a needle in a haystack type of evidence. That if you can pull time-lapse video of the suspect cleaning a gun with blood all over their arms and shirt, right after Dylan disappeared, that is strong. That is strong evidence. The shirt, which the defendant was wearing in the video, was analyzed, and the victim's DNA was found on the shirt. So Dylan's DNA was on James Brenner's shirt. Defendant was interviewed and made several claims that corroborated forensic evidence, in addition to making numerous demonstrably false statements. Despite a thorough investigation and extensive search, the victim's body was not recovered due to the defendant removing and concealing it. So it sounds like, and that's it. That's it for the probable cause statement. It's about one paragraph.
Yeah, so we read the paragraph. Just looking at chat here, but yeah. But that's just amazing. Absolutely amazing that they were able to do this even after they kind of messed up by taking this phone out of the water and not keeping it in some kind of container with water. Because like I said, it starts to oxidize and starts to destroy the components of the phone. So the fact that they were able to take this content, extract it, is absolutely amazing. So just huge. I'm going to read this real quick and then we'll look at the time thing here. So this came from Candace the other day. Justin and I would like to thank everyone for the support you have shown us as we focus on Dylan finding answers in the disappearance of Dylan. James Brenner has been listed as the official suspect since July 2022. Today, James Brenner was charged with aggravated and desecration of the corpse. The charges are based on solid evidence, that's a great word, that has been released by Box Elder. We ask you continue your thoughts and prayers for Justin, for Dylan, and that we can bring him home. So, and like I said, we've been out there several times. I even had the honor to go out there with EquiSearch, which was truly an honor. And we tried. We have tried our hardest, and we're not going to give up. And we now have a geophysicist who's been going to help us on a case that we're going to do in Texas towards the end of the month. But hopefully, right now, it's kind of towards the last bit of winter, and we've been getting dumped on out here in Utah. So it's been really hard to actually really do a lot of stuff right now. Of course, during winter because of the snow being a problem. So that's kind of one of the things that are kind of holding them back. So this is kind of, this is not exact, but this is kind of what Dylan Rounds' phone did on that Saturday. So we have the phone call pretty much right towards the gate. There was actually two phone calls. So before the call with the grandmother, Dylan actually called Brenner, but that call didn't go through. Then there's the phone call at 6:51 or 6:49 with his grandma. And then the phone is tracked to the grain shed garage area. Now it pinged here. Now this is where sadly something went down. Something went down most likely that morning. We don't know. Candace views it as a snap moment where Brenner snapped. And, for those that don't really know Dylan, speaking with Candace, I've done many interviews with her. Her, like I said, her son is, kind of older than his age, and he was kind of cocky. And I guess that could rub some people the wrong way. But anyway, something went down, and Brenner most likely obviously shot him. And so what happens is the phone after this, and I don't have we don't know the exact times. Obviously it'd be early that morning, but the phone pings here at the grain shed. Then later on, it would actually travel to the camper where his farm is at. This could be Brenner dropping the truck off. Then the phone travels back to the grain shed. So his phone would actually ping twice at this location. Now, of course, it's not exact, it's approximate. And then the last location would be towards the where the water hole is at, where the pond is at, Lucin Pond. And so that'd be the last time. And his phone would eventually give out its last signal at 3:51 p.m. And that's the last time the phone worked. So if we kind of work backwards, that phone was on somewhere between well, I guess don't know, but clearly it was on before that, and that video was recorded before 3 or around there or something, but which is huge. So what we have over here, most of this is that property that was being loaned out or rented or whatever. And of course, Brenner was. It's kind of weird. They call him squatting on the property, even though they got him a trailer on the property. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really matter. He was there, and it's the aftermath that's what's important. But so that's how the phone kind of tracked. So it did ping twice at this location. Did also make its way to the camper at some point, and then came back and then went to Lucin Pond. But what happened, what Brenner did with Dylan exactly, we don't know. There is some details that still haven't been shared. Of course, they have to keep details. The family does, but there's some other possibilities. But I would think, in my opinion, after going out there 6 or 7 times, and from everything I've heard and talking with the family, in my opinion, I think he's pretty close. I would say within where I'm circling here, even though this doesn't seem very big, this is miles and miles of area, but I think he could be possibly in here. The reason I say that is this area here is kind of odd terrain. Down south, you've got a couple of homes. I think there's like one home over here, although I think that homeowner might have been gone. Either way, I think the most likely area that he would have been taken would have been this here, or maybe further west a little bit. But that's just from everything that I've been out there and doing, and some of the things that have been sharing with me. And I don't think he would have went north of the tracks, just because the terrain's kind of funky. It's not possible, but yeah. So let me see what you guys are saying in chat. Is there, like I said, I can play a little more video of. Let's see. Let me turn this down. This is just a little before and after. This was done because Diesel Brothers went out there that first weekend to help search, and this is kind of what they were looking at. I was kind of doing a before and after because we been out there multiple times. So I'm going to look at chat while I play this video for a minute. Oh, thank you so much, Joanne. Yeah, yeah, he was known to be an alcoholic. Brenner, for those that may not know, he's kind of a quiet character. Didn't have a lot of friends. I don't think he has any family from when I was talking to Candace the last time. And one of the things that Candace was trying to do, which she was kind of talking about in the interview, is that since obviously Brenner's going to be spending the rest of his life in prison, and they can get they can buy food and stuff, they were going to try to, because I guess he wasn't eating very well, is that they were going to try to go talk to Brenner and say, hey, we'll give you I'm just pulling out a number, but we'll give you $5,000, $10,000 for your commissary if you give the whereabouts of Dylan. You know, try to make a deal to make his his life, what little he has, comfortable with some kind of commissary, because you could do a lot with commissary, because you can kind of make friends with commissary, because if you got money and you got food, you can make deals and stuff. And so that was kind of one of the things that they were going to try to do, is go confront him and say, hey, look, we'll try to make your life comfortable. Unfortunately, you try to do this by making like one of their family members comfortable, if like Brenner had a mother, but unfortunately it doesn't sound like that's the case. So did you show the video of what was on Dylan's phone? No, we'll probably not see that unless it's in court. That has not been released as far as I know. Yeah, I don't think they would release that anytime soon anyway. Yeah. Yeah, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer a few. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this case by any means. There's a lot of other content creators that have done some amazing job. But I definitely know the area. I know the terrain, the area. I've been there several times. Chris, did law enforcement dig through that pile of dirt where Dylan's boots were found? Yes, they scanned it. They walked cadaver dogs around it, which is your best thing to do, is cadaver dogs, and no hint. They brought out cadaver dogs multiple times in different locations. Unfortunately, those locations that they took the cadaver dogs did not get a hit. Fortunately, I can't share all the locations because it's still an ongoing investigation. So there are mines north of the area. Mine shafts. Yeah, north. Yes. So northeast, west. So northeast. Yes, tons of mines. In my opinion, I don't think he's in a mine. I'm going to be honest with you. I would be surprised if they find him in a mine. There are some mines. Oops, actually, this is a perfect shot. Let me go back. These mountains up here, which are huge, there's tons of abandoned mines up there as well, which is west of this location. And some of those have been searched. I don't think they're going to be up there, in my opinion. To me, I think he's somewhere in this area dug, got buried, maybe even moved once or twice, but he's buried somewhere, either in this plot of land to the west or in the wash just north. And I'll show you on Google Earth kind of my opinion where I think he might be at. I would think in this area here, or in this wash which runs along close to this railroad here. These are some areas that I think he would be in, because this is where his phone was dumped. So I think in between the boots and the water hole, if you kind of think about it, boots, water hole, he's going to be found somewhere in between, in my opinion. In between the phone and the boots is where he's going to be found. That's my opinion. And like I said, I try not to bother Candace. I haven't even reached out to her for about a month, even though this new latest details. I always try to give families their space, but I may reach out here since it's been a month since I reached out to her to see what's going on. And like I said, because since we have a geophysicist, and if you don't know a geophysicist is, that's the people that can go out and do the ground penetrating radar. And so let's say if we've got a location that looks good, we can actually put in electric rods into the ground and then 3D map the ground, and they can detect, even up to a year, they can still detect human remains pretty good, because of the remains even up to a year are still kind of decomposing, and so those gases you can actually kind of see on the equipment they use. I also, with the geophysicists, we are actually looking into some satellite imagery that we can get from third parties. So we're trying to get a date just before he went missing, and then like a week after he went missing, in certain areas, to see if it's changed, to see if we can see any kind of different coloring to the soil. So we are trying to do some things without being directly involved at the time, but that's kind of one of the things that we're working on. Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Wash, I believe, yep. Yeah, he was cleaning out the shed. What is a wash? I will show you what a wash. Here's a, let's see. I know I had the videos. Oh, right there. Nope, not this one. Nope, not that one either. I'll just do this one. So a wash is basically like a, if you know what a canyon is, it's like a mini canyon. So this is what a wash is. Oh, so this is what a wash is. They can be big, they can be small. This is obviously a bigger wash. It's where water used to run down, and it's created a, like a canyon type deal here. And then the wind comes in, kind of erodes it. The reason why these are significant is, as you can see on the walls of the wash, you can see loose dirt. So it would be easy to drive into a wash, get the body out, lay it up against one of these walls, and then just kick some dirt down. And then eventually, since the dirt's always kind of constantly falling with the rain and wind, because you can see all on the wash is just constant fresh dirt, it would just slowly bury and bury and bury. So it would be really tough to find someone, especially when it runs for miles. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I'm going to take a sip. I'm going to talk about what we're going to be doing for tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going to be talking about Delphi, and this case as well. We're going to have Steve on. We may fit a little bit of Idaho in there as well, Brian Koberg, because there's been some updates on that. But Delphi, Steve went out to Delphi literally last week. It's got some amazing drone footage of what the bridge looks like. And what's amazing is he went out kind of during the same, because it was still February. So he's kind of got footage of what it would have looked like during the kind of same season of when Abby and Libby were sadly taken. But so we're going to kind of go over some of those latest details with, a possible connection with the, I forget the family name. I want to say Stevenson, but I don't want to be wrong. But there's another possible double homicide that could be related. And so we're going to talk about that, show the new footage, which is amazing footage, by the way. So we'll be showing that. We'll talk about some Dylan Rounds stuff as well. And then maybe, if we can, we'll fit in Brian Koberger. But see if there's any other questions. Newish sub, loving this life. Thank you so much, Jen. That's so awesome. landscape's so different. We're gonna say, yeah. Not a very forgiving landscape. I mean, there's worse landscapes, but when you're looking for a body, it's a needle in in an ocean, sadly. Why is all the equipment? Well, because still it's technically a crime scene, so they don't want to move anything or take anything unless they think something's involved, and then they would take it to, to get it analyzed. So. I agree, Chris. Don't think. Yeah, I don't. No, you got to think a dead body weighs a lot. Dead weight is heavy. And I don't think he, because I really think he did this by himself. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll here. So let's see here. Oh wow, interesting results. So majority think he did this by himself. The next highest is not sure. Then we got 20% think no, someone else helped James. It's possible, in my opinion. I'm 90% say no. And then about 10% of you have not heard of the case. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please smash that like button. Thank you to all who donated. Like I said, it's at the end of winter, and we literally have our dates set. Well, we had to kind of push it back, but we are all the funds that come in, we're going to use to help people such as this situation. And we're going to be going to Texas at the end of the month. It kind of got pushed back. It was supposed to be the middle of this month, but we had to push it back because of scheduling issues. But just being here and leaving a like and watching the show is a huge support to this channel. And thank you guys so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and end it. We'll be on tomorrow with Steve, like I said, with what I just talked about. And we'll be going over those cases in this one as well. And I hope you guys have an amazing night. Thank you, mods, for all the hard work. Thank you to the new members. And once again, thank you for the donations. You guys are amazing. And we will see you guys tomorrow.